which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Good evening, everybody. I got a lot of ground to cover. I will go as quickly as I can through the lighter stuff so that we don't get bogged down too much. Construction updates, number one, Justice Center final furniture deliveries, some outstanding doors and hardware, and the last 4 invoices are still all that remain. Some of the furniture is expected to arrive next Monday and Tuesday, with the rest of the chairs now delayed until early November. Salesperson doesn't know why. She just was notified that some of them, with no apparent rhyme or reason as far as which office chairs they are, will be late. Ton and Blank was last informed that the doors and but John Allen was not expecting this actually to happen, so I was not surprised when it did not happen. He's been waiting on those since the end of construction and has repeatedly been given new dates, but we have no control over it. He has no control over that. Highway garage roof, architect submitted the plans for state permitting last week. I'll be working with him, Gary, to make sure that we are kosher following code requirements as far as bid solicitation, and so that we can get bids received and opened as soon as we can, practically speaking, under the law. Work release facility, it's been slow in finalizing the plans, just a lot of odds and ends with fire code with residential area, making sure that the MEP is planned correctly, some issues with overhead clearance between the bunks and the height of the ceiling required to run some of the MEP. Stephen Mundy gave what I think is the absolute last bit of guidance that Matt needed just this afternoon. And so I expect that by the end of this week, we'll be able to tell Matt that everything is good to go and he could submit those plans to Indianapolis for approval as well. Any questions on those 3 projects before we dive into the courthouse rehabilitation project?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
There were some concerns from the Justice Center from the court and CASA those issues.
That's a slow-moving process. There's no clean answer for who should do what to fix that issue right now. So I'm still working with the architects to see what they might be able to offer. When we did the walkthrough, that was noted, but the subcontractor who did the mechanical work said that short of cutting a hole in the wall and installing to be fixed. So we're still trying to figure out if that's the right move, who's going to pay for it, if it's going to be shared. It was an issue where the previous architect should have designed a 3rd vent in, but it was also a last-minute substantial change to the original plans to make sure that we didn't steal too much of the lobby space up there. So it was, it wasn't some of the other sloppiness that we saw from him on opponents so much as it was a rush job to keep the plans together as quickly as construction was moving along. So ultimately the architect messed up. Whether that's something that they will work with us on, we're still hashing out.
So we aren't going to submit final payment until that gets hashed out?
No.
Okay.
No. And we still haven't received the last bill to have to make that decision. The last 4, we've got one from them, one from the electrician, one for furniture if that ever gets delivered, and then the last one from Ton and Black. Any other questions on those 3? All right, moving on to the courthouse. You have a couple of pages in your packet relating to the construction. With the architects having completed the first rounds of drawings, the schematic design, I'll be scheduling a steering committee meeting and setting up a couple of appointments one-on-one with office holders and their staffs to have some follow-up questions answered about specific design and space layout tweaks before the architects take these schematic design drawings into design development drawings. Project budget. Now that Ton and Blank has received the narrative and specifications for schematic design round of drawings, they have submitted updated construction cost estimates based on those reports and conversations that they have had with some of the subcontractors they have used frequently, including some who've done work on our Justice Center. The two packets you have, one are Ton and Blank's line item budget, 2 pages, just for construction costs and costs directly related to their construction management services. And the second is the legal size page that I prepared. That includes 3 columns of budget estimates that factor in project costs not under Ton and Blank's jurisdiction. So architectural design, furniture, financial consultants, legal consultants, movers, rent, IT, all of that fun stuff. And it also compares the current construction company estimate with previous estimates that we've had. One from 2021 that I've seen 18 months ago that were prepared primarily by the architect. One from a couple of months ago that you haven't seen that I've used with our consultants, and then the Ton and Blank budget with the additional costs that aren't under their purview. At about 7.9 million, with total project costs about 9.7 million. Does not include any costs that we might want to roll in the bond for digitization of an online storage. And as you will see, if you haven't already, the 3 most substantial line items in the budget are masonry, windows, and HVAC. Masonry costs include both the repair of the exterior stone walls. Also have been led to believe that that includes a lot of the waterproofing work for the foundation, which means that that component of the project has actually stayed pretty steady against cost increases elsewhere from earlier budgets, within maybe $50,000, I think. I am waiting further elaboration on the cause of what is a fairly significant increase for the HVAC system. When we got estimates from the architect a year and a half ago, they were looking at about 850,000. It's now at 1.7 million. We haven't gotten answers to that yet. The consulting engineers that the architects use think that 850 is certainly too low given what the market has done the last 1.5 years, but don't think that 1.7 is accurate and think that that should come down. I just don't know at this point by how much. That'll be something that's hashed out through the second and third stages of drawings, and then of course with the final answer when bids are released and we see what it actually comes out to based on the final approved plans and specs. The windows offer some possibility of cost reduction from the current number. Part of that will come from if we're able to work with the steering committee and the individual department heads to sort of strategically determine which windows in the building could be inoperable and not openable. If we only do a few of those, there isn't really cost savings because the manufacturer is going to have to set up 2 lines to run the operable and the inoperable. But if we can get it down to maybe 50-50 split or a 60-40 split, there's some substantial opportunity for cost savings if we do not have every window in that building operable. For instance, like in Laura's office, where she's in the southeast corner of the building, there are, and I'm kind of spitballing, like 5 windows on the east wall and 4 south wall. It might be 3 and 2 that are operable, and then 2 and 2 that are inoperable, somewhere along those lines. You know, sort of strategically selected to maximize airflow and light. I guess that's how. And then we could see some cost savings there. There might also be some cost savings realizable on windows, depending on the manufacturer that ultimately be selected by the subcontractor doing the windows. This number is from a little bit of a higher end company that specializes in historic preservation, but a lot of it is just going to come down to finding a balance between what looks like it fits with the building, being sufficiently efficient, and having the durability and lifespan of a commercial grade window as opposed to going with a residential grade window and hoping that those last. There are also a couple of potential spots for just general cost reduction where we could cut. We could change some of the ceilings from gypsum to ACT tile. We could look at removing the repair of the bell and clock from the project, and we could make some changes to the lighting. But honestly, those three combined would save us about $80,000 on a $8 million construction project. Commissioners previously discussed using ARP funds for the HVAC system. That was, of course, with a substantially lower estimate. Not sure if that's still viable. It's probably going to depend on if we can pinpoint what that number should actually look like and figure out why the estimates between the MEP consultant and the contractor are so different. At last month's council meeting, using the current balance of the rainy day fund to some of our debt, if not obviously necessarily the construction at the council meeting. That's all in the budget. And I'll go through one last part and then we can open up for questions on all of this I'm covering. As I have related in the past, two issues largely locally that we need to address as we're going into this are relocation of courthouse offices and planning for document digitization and storage. Barring any unforeseen changes or surprises, we are expecting to move the assessors, auditors, recorders, and treasurers' offices to the upper floor of the East Annex. Representatives of all those departments have inspected the space. I think Laura went there in advance with Tammy from maintenance, and then Tammy and I met with a couple of her deputies and representatives of the other offices did a walkthrough, and they think they're going to be able to make that work. They've sort of picked out which spaces each of their departments will use. The prosecutor's office left a lot of furniture behind that they'll be able to repurpose so that we don't need to bring their existing furniture, which will either be refinished or trashed in many cases, to that building and deal with the massive disaster that trying to move furniture in a building with a non-cargo friendly elevator presents. I don't think it's critical, as I've conveyed to the commissioners previously, that we have a final plan in place for document storage and digitization. But I do think it would be advisable if we can continue working on that. So when construction is done and we're moving back, we aren't in a position to move files and cabinets back into the courthouse just to move them to another location yet again. I've been working with the department heads and one consultant. Laura has taken a lot of steps to get her office's documents scanned and online. And up there, after I'm done talking, we've got a gentleman that Mr. Walters from DeGroot Technology has asked to present to all of you with him tonight. Okay. Questions? I covered a lot of ground, I realize. There's a lot going on there. I would guess approximately 9 months to a year. That'll depend in part on lead time delays. You know, most of our construction on the Justice Center was like 6.5 months, but we've also got, you know, minor things that we're still waiting on. Final end of construction, it's going to depend on what sort of lead times they think, but I would guess approximately 9 months to a year for the whole thing. And that's based on estimates construction guys did in the last couple of years. Yes. Yes, that is correct. The first two columns were based on how the previous architect had laid out the table, but the construction man, Ton and Blank, did it out a little bit differently, and some of those got shifted around.
When you talk about document retention and the scanning that we've done, are you assuming original books and documents will be destroyed?
I am making no assumptions. Those are in the custody of the individual departments. That'll be up to them. I just think that whether they're destroyed, sent to the state, or just stored off-site, things that they do not use frequently or that they could have better access to digitally could be stored somewhere other than their current spaces to make better use of that going forward.
Okay, so we need to consider retaining
Yeah.
many of those as well as
That-
digital.
Yes.
Just wanted to say that.
Any other discussion or questions for Nathan?
No on the construction side, but because we are moving 4 of the 5 departments into the annex, whatever works for you, I will work with you and maintenance to make it happen on your schedules. As long as you're out like before probably mid-January, maybe even late January. And if that's not possible, I suspect there's enough flexibility the way things are moving. But when construction does finally start is the only thing other than your individual office schedules for the 4 of you. I did skip over one thing. I mentioned 4 of the 5 departments. The space in the East Annex does not really work for a 5th department. So I've been working with the clerk and her staff at some other options that would accommodate them and if possible would be closer to the Justice Center for all of their work with the courts. We did look at one facility today. It had it had a couple of concerning issues that the real estate agent thinks he could remedy. We'll see how that goes, but I will continue working with Clerk Bainey on seeing if there are other options that will be workable for them.
Anything else?
You all know where to find me if you have further questions after tonight. Abby, do you want to pop up here? Turn your mic on and I will get Scott ready.
We're gonna discuss the restructuring.
Oh, I still have another part of I'm sorry. I covered so much in the courthouse. I will go quickly on those since what's that? You know what? Actually, some of it can be. The restructuring stuff can be read-only. CDC update can be read-only. And then I'll just jump down to number 4, because 2 and 3, they're nowhere there's nothing urgent requiring decisions tonight. Number 4, though, I will go quickly. We are continuing to make progress on the wage and benefit study. As I reported to the council last month, we are looking at a total of 18 counties in the categorization a little bit so that I got plus like 600 people of being dead center of the small counties group and made us really the average. So 10 that are generally have similar populations to us between about 8,000 average, like I said, about 600 higher than ours. Then another 7 are larger regional neighbors. Since then, we also have come into possession of a copy of the 2021 Association of Indiana Counties Fact Book, which doesn't always have as precise a data about wages that Gateway has, because Gateway reflects partial years, part-time, overtime pay, whereas the fact book just includes the baseline pay, but it is useful in confirming some of the data, double checking, especially where some of the counties have really messy or unclear reporting. It will become more helpful as we dive into the fringe benefit side of things. Last month, I gave a long list to the council of department heads and supervisory positions we've looked at. We have started moving into some of the departmental personnel at this point. We have finished the highway department spreadsheet. And Taylor is moving on to courthouse elected offices now. And we'll continue putting that together, and that's going to be probably the primary task I have for Taylor for the foreseeable future until we can get that finished up for you.
And do you have anything to do?
Now I'll go get Scott set up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back to digital again. So when I was here as IT director, we looked at, or I had purchased LaserFiche when I was here as the IT director. As of now, I started looking at these departments. They started doing digital documents or trying to do digital documents. And why I say that is you could take digital documents and scan all day long, but to retrieve those documents in a easier fashion, besides going out and those, normally there's a program out there that you would actually get. I brought Scott Martin from MP Digital with me today. He's a LaserFiche expert. That is the program that we had purchased. And so it's not like there's not other programs out there that we could purchase for this. Some of them are more expensive to do that with. We already own this program. We would need to pay some extra money to get it back up to where we was at. But Scott can fill you in on a little bit. Can you hear me all right, Scott?
Oh, you know what? I think I need it. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Scott. I was just filling him in on a little bit of what.
Yeah, you're good.
Could you give them a little bit of rundown of what LaserFiche could do for us?
Sure. LaserFiche is a document management record management application that allows you to use digital forms to begin a process where into the organization, and then you add it based on certain criteria. You can use it as a place to store legacy documents and scan and store them with what we call metadata, so document type, name, date, things like that. They have the records how you can retain based on your record retention rules. After X number of years, the system will say, I reached my retention, do something. So it's essentially a content management solution. Any content that the county has can be identified and deposited so that the appropriate person that has rights can retrieve and act on that information.
So what he's saying by that is, so they have a back end of this to where we could put it up on the web for public to be able to access it. We could access it. And so what that would do, even with the documents that has already been scanned in, this LaserFiche program can take those documents, scan those documents again itself, and actually put those in folders. And so that if you're looking for something from 1934 and the name on it is Johnson, you don't even need that. Say 1934 and you push a button, it'll pull up all those documents from 1934. You can go through all those documents. If you put it a little bit farther into it, you put Johnson on there, it'll actually look for 1934, it'll look for Johnson, or it'll look for a certain document that you're putting in there, and it'll go out and find that document and bring those in front of you so that you can actually search them and retrieve them. This is one of the things that was brought up to me was if you scan the documents the way we're scanning them now, you can take 300 pages, put them in a scanner and scan them. But how are you going to get to those 300 pages? You're going to have to go through each one of those and find them. So let's say you're looking for a specific document on there. So you take those 300 documents and throw them up in the air and let them hit the ground. So you're here and you're going to search through all those on the ground, finding that one that you're looking for. Basically the same thing what you're going to do when you're looking at it in a folder. So what this program does is it already does that work for you, and you just go out, find it, and bring it up.
So, I'm sorry. Different from what's happening in the recorder's office. Recorder is indexing their own files. You're
That-
saying the LaserFiche would index these files for us.
Yes, basically the same thing. The recorder's office has their program. Trying to think of the name of their program that they use. They actually have their own digital program that they're using. Prosecutor's office, they have their own digital program that they're using, but that's through the state. So there is different criterias that would be for this. This would be more for the public documents that I was looking at. Yeah, for different ones, but the public documents is what I was looking at. They have a cloud version of this where everything is up actually in the cloud. All the data is in the cloud, and everything is ran by the cloud. Or they have it to where, just like what we have now, is we have it on our servers. Still have the back end that's on, let's say, our web page or whatever it is, where the public can actually access that. They would actually go through the LaserFiche software, and I talked to Rowing today about it. They would rather have us go. They wouldn't have any way of changing those documents, just a read-only. They would have read-only access for that. But when I talked to Rowing about it, they would rather go to the cloud-based version side of it if we could manage it. And I said, well, depending on what the cost is, and if we decide to go that direction, that could be brought up at a later date. They brought it up as security. So the way that I would perceive that in security-wise is if you have a read-only access to it, you're not being able to change any documents. Now, maybe they're higher on scale on that, but it's only a read-only access. So I don't know why you wouldn't be able to read them, you wouldn't be able to do anything like that. So I would have to ask them a little more in depth on why they wanted to go that way. But yes, it was for security purposes. We have some departments now that's actually trying to purchase, or maybe they have already purchased, cloud space for that, iCloud, Google Cloud, whatever they're purchasing. But I believe that we should be actually looking at one section for this instead of every department doing their own thing.
You've already purchased some cloud space?
I don't know. I don't know whether the department has purchased that cloud space or not. But I was told that they were going to purchase it. They were going to go ahead and move forward. But it was my understanding that's what they were going to do. This was a week or so ago when I discussed that with that department, and they said, "Well, you do what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward with it." So
I think it's important that we have all the documents that we have a plan in place to manage it in one place, and then or Pulaski County, we need to manage it in one location. If we have something that we've already purchased that's available, that can manage it and make it easy access, for me, I see this, using some kind of a process that makes it easy access and easy finding for not only the company, but also the public, because it saves them having to come and creates a lot of time for departments to have to look this up. So the public can do it relatively easy, and we have something that's available that will categorize and finalize or site. You can't always see where that's not a bad thing.
right.
I understand that there may be certain departments, prosecutors, others that have to do things a certain way, because they have that state or whatever, they have certain things. But it's very important that we look at processes that work for everybody, not individually. Every time we do that, council members see it over and over again. We lose track of who's paying for, where's it paid for, who's doing what, and it works very inefficiently, which is taxpayer dollars.
Well, even on the bench, even has a back end to where if the public comes in, they can actually pay for the documents also, which would kind of pay for having the part-time people or personnel that we're putting the digital documents in, that would help get some of those fees back. Right now, what was looked at, it was a free service for Pulaski County out there, but I mean, it could be a paid version also.
Assume that I'm an idiot because in many cases I am. If we have departments going out and buying their own file space, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, is that kind of like not managing our IT like Pulaski County?
Well, you're definitely, you're definitely, and if those departments aren't coming to, whether it be rowing, us, or some other IT person to put those out there, who's to say that those documents aren't going to get taken, get deleted, get something else done with them, or viruses, or somebody even going out and changing documents. I mean, if they don't know how to put those out there and keep them safe, then I can see different things happening.
On the data entry side, is this universal where, or do some departments require different data entry features as compared to another?
So once these are set up, and it depends on how we would set the system up, but depending on how it's set up, let's say that there's a certain form that we use, and let's say that it looks like this, and it's been looking like this for the last 20 or 30 years. And it has a date up here, and it has a name here, and it maybe has a number up here. When you throw that in the scanner and you put that through LaserFiche, it says, okay, well, I know that this is supposed to be here. I know that this is supposed to be here, and this is supposed to be here. So this must be X, Y, document. And what that does, it says, okay, well, I'm going to take that document, and I'm going to put it in this folder over here, and we're going to name it whatever it is here. And so what it does, it reads those fields, and then you can actually pull that document back out after it read those fields. Does that answer your question? Set up, and it could be per department, it could be an individual put it in there manually, each department. So once those are set up, one thing you have to do, what I was told and what I've seen, is you can take 300 pages of documents once that's set up, put that in a scanner, and leave it sit there and scans in the LaserFiche, and it knows what to do with it, and puts it away in folders and names it for you.
I got it. And maybe this, to answer that question more, maybe it's just read into it. Well, I mean, I take this as a program that's being used in other counties. Other counties are using this, doing the same thing we'd be looking at doing. So it has a past record behind it, something that can say, yes, this works.
Yes, and the LaserFiche as a company was founded in the late 1980s. It's been around for a long time. The application is sold worldwide. I apologize about that. The application is sold worldwide, and the number one use of the application is for county, township, government agency. Our specialty is exactly what you're doing at Pulaski County. So we have our city of Frankfurt in Indiana, Delaware County Health Department in Ohio, Ross County Probate Court, in Southern Township, and all of these organizations, they have different processes, but really the need was the same. The need was to come up with a very elegant way to identify a thoughtful process to onboard documents so they could be easily found and preserved for their government agency. You want to be able to tell all the constituents of your county that we care for the information that's within our organization. And that's what LaserFiche does for government agencies. And you do type of organization. Health departments, hospitals, for-profit entities, but their main focus from the very beginning has been the space that you're operating in, the government agency.
Thank you.
Could you list some of those Indiana places again, please? I
Well,
heard,
we have the city of Franklin, Court of Courts, as a client of ours. We're located in Memphis, Ohio. We don't have a lot of accounts in Indiana, but we do have City of Franklin. They would be a reference that we could use. There are other agencies across Ohio that across Indiana that do have LaserFiche.
you mentioned Delaware County?
Delaware County, Ohio.
Okay.
And we could get,
My company, I'm one of the owners, we have a license to sell LaserFiche. We're one of 400 organizations in the world that do exactly the same thing.
and we could get that information for you too, so that you could actually do some research on it too.
We don't use any other bandwidth, any other application, just this one. So if LaserFiche became what you already go forward with, it sounds like you have a handful of other things within the county. If LaserFiche is what you want to standardize on, that would be what we focus on in our special sauce is to help government agencies do exactly that.
So when we first started using this, we used it at the prosecutor's office. That's where we first started using it, and then we was going to move it on to the surveyor's office. And at that point in time, I was actually leaving the county at that point in time. So going, could you give a little bit of breakdown of what we would need to do to get with our fees?
Yeah, that's a pretty easy question. I have a quote from LaserFiche, which is Pulaski on Friday after that shit's got to RV. And you could simply pay that reinstatement fee, and you would have exactly the system you have now under what they call their software support program. It's just paying a reinstatement fee. There's nothing more than the cost to catch up. The other two actions would be to buy a business subscription license that's fairly equal to the configuration report that could be installed on your own servers. Option three could be get a similarly provisioned LaserFiche cloud process where it would do the same thing as the other applications. It's all LaserFiche is LaserFiche. They all look the same. The cloud version runs on AWS, so it's Amazon Web Services. So it gets the backup, the protection, and all of the data security process that Amazon provides that no one single agency can spend that much money on the security. They provide those numbers, and however you want them provided. The first option would be the catch-up fee.
How much is that?
I have to take it out, I just send it to whoever needs me to send it to.
We can get that information for you.
I was saying that say if you can forward that to RV and RV can somebody back to the rest of us.
And I believe 10 user license. I believe we had a 10 user license. Is that correct? 10 department or 10 individuals could be using that at one time. Is that correct?
I'm pretty sure I saw 10 on that.
Yeah, thought it was.
It was 10 licenses, actually individual email addresses, and then there was 4 or 5 other things that were on that full pro LaserFiche.
Right. But yeah, I can get you guys that information that you need. Years since I was doing I had asked the auditor's office here a week or so ago, but I hadn't got back with them to give me the information of when purchase or paying that for LaserFiche, but I hadn't got to them to.
Would there be some value in me providing what you just requested, which is the green statement fee, and also a new LaserFiche cloud investment of the same package, just so you can compare them to? Is there value in that?
Yeah, I think there'd be value in that.
Okay, I'll do that. Just give me a little bit of time, and I'll get that to you by tomorrow morning, RG.
Nope, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I think we have Bill in here and Laura, too, that are dealing with the same topic, right? So we'll give them an opportunity at this time. So things are still fresh in our mind. And you're still on hold, so don't leave.
Yep, yep.
Laura?
Maybe, maybe not. My needs are. My office. So that, from everything I've seen, the LaserFiche work out, it's something that we talk about. County decisions, whether they don't. So that's something that we got as well. You know, it would have to be either an additional next year or. So looking at these things is great idea. But making an overall decision for every department might not be a good thing for every department. The other thing is, you know, some things are public access, other things are confidential. So there's another difference in what you're going to do with software. So there's so many aspects. The other thing is that you're looking at hiring an IT managing director, I'm not sure the right term, but that person should be involved in the decision.
So you say that with each individual department, but this could be individualized per department.
Well, like I said, something to look into.
No, I'm just bringing it up. And the reason I say it that way is what my thought would be, and I think what was happening back when I was IT director then, was it was paid out of the commissioner's budget at that point in time, so that it encompassed the whole county, so that the county could actually use that in all the departments.
Go in, you have something to add?
I was just gonna say, I agree with what Laura said, you know, what the auditor's office needs is gonna be completely different from what the clerk's office needs are, and we have a lot of confidential documents, like, within files, so it's not like we could take all of the divorces and put them on there, because we're gonna have child support information, minor child information, the different files of juveniles, the mental health files, even estates, because a lot of times estate files have account numbers and social security numbers, and even though the court has us put it on green paper, most of the confidential stuff is on green paper. That's how the courts, and we know that that's confidential, supposed to be sealed. I'm not sure LaserFiche.
Well, I believe LaserFiche, and Scott, could you reiterate on this? So I believe that LaserFiche has confidential spot also for documents. So you could do a public, but you could also do confidential documents also, correct?
Oh, yeah, there's a really high degree of security that if you know, in the crazy world, I need to see just this one document and nobody else, that could be done, but, you know, you would never do such a thing. But you can identify a document and it goes into a certain place in the repository, that's for only the people that can access that part of the repository, or you make a public facing document to the, you know, the constituents of the outside world, as a read-only document. security in your records retention and manage the every single document like that might come into the LaserFiche repository.
But that doesn't address the funding for the manpower and the time to actually go through the documents when they want to determine what's
Correct.
confidential.
Yep. Correct, and that's why when we first started this, before was in the prosecutor's office where it was confidential documents, and then we was looking at doing public documents. This program here will actually allow, so let's say that you have your confidential documents and you're the only ones that can see those documents. You're the only ones that can bring those up. So if Laura tried to bring it up, she ain't able to bring it up. This program actually does that.
I think, no decisions were expected to
Right.
be made tonight. It's just he had brought this up from his past experience with the county, and it was something that if it would work, and it would meet a great number of our mandates, and we've already had it, it would be foolish not to look into it and see if it's a useful thing. But we can do something that is document safe, meets the needs of the departments, or maybe some that will need something different, but if it meets the needs of most, they will need public, confidential, and all. I think it's right there. Once again, it's not to look into. You definitely want to take everybody's concerns into play. And so,
The only reason I was bringing it up tonight is I just want to make sure that we're moving in the correct path, what we need to do. Instead of each department doing their own, spending the money or spending resources or putting information out there not securely and, being able to lose our documents or so on and so forth.
and that's why when RV contacted me and we talked about it, that's why I asked as well, to go ahead and look into this. RV or DeGroot Technology is looking into this stuff, I think, wisely. We need to make sure that we're not spending good money over bad money, which happens from time to time.
A question I have about, for example, the recorder's office chose the software that it did because that software works specifically with the global programs that our departments use. Is that going to be an issue with this also? Does it have to be able to work with the software? So,
Work with,
so I think
I don't think they're looking at making a path tonight. I mean, we're just discussing it. I mean, there's other software out there, Rowan even mentioned DocuWare. I mean, there is other programs out there. The only reason that we brought this up was, and the only reason I brought it up is I know departments are looking at doing this. And if we have a program and it'll work, why would we not reactivate that and use it?
Growing some of the cost comparison for us, other software.
Yep. Yep.
I think maybe the bigger point is that we have to retain our documents, but at this point we need to, but once again, we need to have a plan in place, to shoot from the hip. Whether it's drop server, LaserFiche, or if it's, right in the corner, looking in a file cabinet, whatever it is.
Yep.
It needs to be something that's a plan made that will hopefully work for everybody.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think all this discussion, combining down to our item number 3, record retention. Is there anything else related to this topic that you brought up? I would just maybe move forward and keep looking at information for this gentleman as well as growing and being talk to the departments to get their blue line things work and won't work, answer their questions as well. Everybody has to be satisfied with this go create a program plan.
and I think that this kind of document retention is necessary necessary and giving the public access to what they can have access to. But I said this to Maurice earlier, I believe we're also going to have to look at, and it will depend on how many documents we can get rid of. I think we're going to have to look at a climate control building to hang on to those old documents that we still have to hang on to, of which there are massive numbers.
Which I know we've had documents that we had down in the Justice Center that had got ruined down there because of same thing, not having a place to put the documents and not get them ruined down there.
Yeah, that needs to be part of the overall plan.
Right.
Chuck, I'll make one last closing note just to remind that if it is done timely within the period of the construction project, we can roll labor costs and or initial setup costs into the bond if we so choose. We won't be able to cover like any sort of annual hosting costs. Those will have to come out of departmental budgets, but the initial setup labor, if we hire people internally or externally to do the actual scanning, that we can all cover as part of the construction project if we so choose.
So hopefully we'll get some cost factors here. Like the city done, anything else? Record retention? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
I sincerely thank you for the job, and I will get that information off you right away.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, down to other business, move and sign of the August 8th joint station minutes.
I make one to approve it. I'll sign it.
I'll entertain a motion from the council to approve and sign the 8/8/2022 work session minutes. I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Passed.
We'll let Brandon jump in here. You want to go next, Brandon?
Sure. I thought you guys were just discussing that. I was going to be here for any questions. Just coming back again to see about some sort of a retention program to help either get employees through paramedic school or to help pay for the school after the fact as a way of retention. A lot of other departments do that. They'll either put them through medic school and then make them sign a contract that they'll work 2 to 5 years after the fact. And if they leave prior to that, then they will owe a portion of that money back. Other ways to do it is just make them pay for their schooling up front, and then same thing, then at their first anniversary of being a paramedic, give them earned as a form of retention.
Brandon, you were at our last meeting and the policy and fee. Kevin was here, said the similar situation with the sheriff's department. That's correct? Yeah, that's correct. Similar program, so we just wanted to throw that out, get the feeling from council, or we went forward with any type of policy manual change that would put the paramedics saying, I'm sorry, the sheriff's department has, so. Yeah, we just looked about your discussion.
We're adopting the budget tonight. You know, I know everybody knows this, that we're adopting the budget tonight. And if this is something that has been thought of for a while, my question is, why was this not brought up at the beginning of the budget process?
This is in the budget.
It's in the budget?
I've been working on this since 2019.
Okay, so it's in the budget. All right.
So the money's in the budget, and we haven't used it before because we haven't had a policy in place.
Correct.
It's not a business. So school and that, and they sign a deal with for however long, and all that. That's cool. And that makes people
I think it can be an effective tool, and if it's in the budget, why don't we have a policy to go on that?
precious and do out that we're talking about.
Most paramedic schools around 5,000 that they do around here.
How long do they have to stay to get back?
That could be your guys' decision.
How long do you think?
Most of the services around us do 2 years.
That's maybe there.
I agree, it's a good tool, it's a tool that's being used in the county already. I think that's another tool at our disposal to try and retain people. And I do want to point out to a substantial increase in pay for those folks in that department at all, help retain them as well. But I can see where it's difficult, $5,000 upfront to go through a training. It's difficult. A lot of good folks that would be very well suited to this position, financially not fit at this time to do it.
How long has it been in your budget? Since 2019, you said?
I think we put it in 1 year, and then I took it out 1 year because it wasn't going anywhere, and then it was back in for this year, and it's back in for next year.
Okay, but it was back in for this year, but you didn't use any of it this year.
Correct.
Okay, so what's it gonna take for you to get policy? Do you have a policy that is to our training?
I had submitted one a couple years ago. The sheriff's department contract, and I just kind of made some changes so it fit us, and submitted to Kevin just to have him make sure that everything legally was all good. And not that word's been.
I would say, give Kevin, Colleen, find out where it's at. So it's been a new one to us, get in front of us, we have something to look at. Decide at that time whether we're going to use it.
So that one that I did was where it would pay for it up front. And once they got their paramedic license, it kind of turned into a loan per se, that each month they worked here, that payment was forgiven. And then if they left halfway through that term, they would owe 50% of that back to the county. And then what my hopes is it just become an interest-bearing loan to where way the county could, if that's something that's legally can be done, but that way the county could even make some interest off of it if that were to happen, if they were to leave. An easier way would just be the retention program. Like I've got 2 guys that just got their paramedic license here in the last couple of weeks. You know, we could just come up with a policy that their first anniversary, they get X amount of dollars, and the second anniversary, they get X amount of dollars. Sure. And if they leave, then they just don't get the money.
How do you guys do it? I'm sorry for the spot here. How do you guys do it?
It's close to what Brandon just said. It goes year by year. You gotta watch because you wind up in a lawsuit and that stuff. We had one of our guys that left Logansport actually then got into a legal battle with Logansport. Him when he was there before his tenure was up. So, but it's about like Brandon said. We don't do the one where he's talking about moving money. We just pay up front, and then if they leave early, they can pay some back. We haven't had anybody leave, so we haven't really had to go after it.
For me, about this conversation long, I would think paying for it up front, like the county would be more beneficial, because we say they paid it, and we would be first some back. So that kind of takes away from the fact that if somebody that does want a job, but doesn't have the financial ability to pay that up front, I think of us paying up front, and then, like I say, of course, like I said, that has to all come in and make sure, like the sheriff said, we don't get into the situation. That would be my first thought. That would be a better focus.
And and Kevin had stated that he thought it would be difficult, that if someone did leave, how would we, pursuing them would be difficult. I'm sorry? I just added the extra 5,000 in the training.
I guess that brings up to the point, how much budget is in there, if you only do one person a year. Why don't you have 2 or 3 people?
Yeah. And if you did the retention for after the fact, we'd have enough for 2.
I guess my thought is, I'm in favor of looking at this, but I think, you need to get the county, sit down, work out what's the best avenue to keep you for keeping us as a county out of trouble, still being able to get the conversation on that county and bring the policy you and him feel will bring the county works the best for your department and present that to the council.
Okay. I'll go back to Kevin.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Brandon. Last item, we have the discussion on the EMA position. So, there was design position, and then the position, parking was on out. I have to worry about being on 24-hour call and so on. So, those things that happen, either go back to halftime. There's always responsibility for them to other departments. A little background with this. Responsible for the emergency management performance grant and for the salaries. The salaries come from also a competitive grant that you can apply for as well. She had completed the grant at the point where it had to be completed currently. And this is that first year, that's where you fund salaries and estimated hours. And this, that the minutes from one of our meetings here where this last, we did receive the 2021 salary reimbursement, and we got $20,320. That's through this grant. The ADA coordinator, it was an ADA committee. So we don't use committee, but that started to do some of the address complaints. But this is for county buildings only. But during some of those meetings, we can serve on that as well. We would have issues with the post office or somewhere else. This is basically for county buildings. The buildings need to be checked once every 3 years. Instead of the past, 2 years back, the maintenance department did that. Years beyond that, county highway had that responsibility. So I think this has to be in place for county highway to get some funding. Correct, no, that hearing. Oh, yeah, you're saying. For some of that, this has to be done. I think, like 3 or 4 other grants, we mentioned came to the council once, because there was the SHSP grant you fill out for cybersecurity, areas and basically involved in this position. I sent the job description out to commissioners in time I can. All this is kind of laid out in that area. There's, the local emergency. This is, Parks plan that has to be completed. And that's, he explained this kind of an insurance policy for the county. There are corporations that are housing hazardous materials. So they have to complete a form each year with what's in the building. And, they have to pay a fee for that. And through that fee, that's what the LEDC operates on. And also underneath that, we have one exercise per year, to meet standards that have the state. So just want to throw that out there. Quick summary of what that job entails currently. Just a little more discussion, I can move forward with building position, setting position, half-time.
I know, when we talked about this in past times, I went back to run some of the Kevin's emails and stuff, and couple things. I mean, I know when the one meeting happened, there was, a lot of concern with, from payment stuff about, that position being a part-time position. I know there was a lot of concern with the district on that position being a part-time position. I know there was a lot of concerns on what funding you would get from the grant, how the grant work on covering the cost of the salary of that person if it was a part-time position or if it got split up into other departments. So, I have a few concerns there because I don't want to lose what funding to get for that. Continue. And I know, points I'm making. I've also looked at, like Chuck said, I looked at the job description that's put in place for it. The person is, to me, I'm not sure, by no means saying sure it is exactly what she required, wasn't doing a good job as a job. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that if somebody's doing all that's on that description, I think that's a fair amount of work there, a fair amount of documentation, paperwork that can be done by a part-time person in half a day. Or is there, I mean, there was a department talk about short manpower, needing more manpower. How do we retain people? How do we get increases in pay? Workload versus, this county versus that county, different things. Then we're going to go out and have a department to spread the workload up amongst their folks. I'm not sure one person in the county is not doing enough work or more work than they can handle at this point in time. So, these are things that need to be vetted well for a decision.
Not saying that the position could be a part-time position. It could very well be a part-time position.
It used to be a part-time position.
Yeah.
Francis Small.
Yeah, I guess and I don't know when that was, I'm curious what the workload was at that time.
And something that maybe we could talk about in terms to see how they manage theirs.
It has not worked well for Stark County with part-time.
I'm sorry.
It has not worked well for Stark County to have part-time. I think they've had at least 4 different people in that position in the last 18 months because they haven't been able to retain someone part-time. That's not to say it couldn't work, but Taylor and I have been doing our research on wages, we've seen that nearly every county does have full-time. Some even have clerical or assistant directors, which does seem like overkill to me. But the only place where we've really come across turnover is where they've tried to do it part-time in Stark County.
I know from talking about Stark County, yes,
Well, could we share one with another county?
That is legal under state law.
So we could partner with Stark County and help their retention problem as well as.
Theoretically, I do not know the code well enough to tell you that, but that is an option.
What you have two hazard situations.
Well, yeah, but see, we need to share ours with like Jefferson County, Southern Indiana, because there's not as much chance. I think whenever that hazardous material problem is gonna happen, I think the fire department's gonna push the guy outside and they'll take care of it. They don't come. Not that anybody's gonna listen, but they, you know.
And hydrants thing flipped over in front of our shop, going down the road a few years ago, and everyone was out there except for EMA. So everyone took care of it, and they told us to get out of the way, evacuate the shop. And so, I agree that,
When the guy got stuck in the water tower, Francisville, years ago. Well, I sure think we all look into sheriff.
Who would take the lead on that, commissioners or the council?
We funded, sorry guys. Sorry. There's your answer. You guys can fight the way.
all right,
The other thing that just a thought, I think there's so many grants in the county that we're not applying for just because people in that department maybe doesn't have the time to complete it yet. You know, just like we had a cyber grant that came through, we had a recycling grant. There's probably others, but those are the two that I'm thinking of right now. Applying for the grant. This person also say, not as full-time, half-time there, but also when there's a grant coming through, that this person have responsibility for trying to put the grant together. So I think we're losing out on some money just because the time we have that doing, going after the grant. So I think that one was 24 pages long, you know.
That may be two different skill sets, too. Someone who might be skilled to be an EMA director may not be skilled in writing grants.
That's Mike's job, to find the ideal person.
Right, so, which brings us back to the discussion that we never seem to completely have, which is at some point we need to talk about a county manager who could do those things. That's not a discussion for the day. I'm sorry around that here. I've got two more, so, you know, just say it to
Okay, the grants, with the last one, they come on security at the school. You found out school safety grant out there, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, there's money there, yeah, there's
You know, that, it's a possibility to invest in money.
no, good point. Okay, so with that discussion item, the council will take responsibility of looking into, shared. Who will? I mean.
yeah, Commissioner.
I was thinking.
sorry, Patrick.
Anything else from the other cause? Do you have any public comment or anything? Comment?
Yeah. Well, not on that.
Yeah, well, you can step off there.
I just wanted to take a minute. I'm Chris Lamer.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for taking my public comment this evening. I grew up in Pulaski County. I've been here all my life. I'm a local landowner and a business owner in Pulaski County, and I supply things for surrounding counties. And I've been working with the, excuse me, I lost the train of thought here in the county. And I plan to keep my business here in Pulaski County. And I wanted to share my experience with working with the solar fields and a positive note on the companies that had good experience working with the solar fields. I had some land contracted with them. And we're getting good wages and we're putting local people to work. And I think it's a very positive thing to be doing what we would like to think is green energy. And I just wanted to let everybody know that overall we've had a good experience there in Stark County, and we're working with some of them up in Wheatfield now. I think it'll be a great opportunity for Pulaski County. And I just wanted to let you know that we have roughly about 26 people employed, and most of them have families, so it's a plus to keep local people busy, having good quality jobs. So I just wanted to mention that, and I appreciate it.
What do you do for them?
We haul stone, and we supply dumpsters for some cleanup, and just several different things. But yeah. So, no, I didn't get in anything building.
You won't get in any mowing?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But, seems to be quite a little bit of work to go around out there, so hopefully it'll be a good thing. Thank you.
Commissioner Benson, for a motion to,
Make motion to adjourn. Also,
Aye. Council adjourns to the session.